Welcome back, everyone. Here we are with our first recap of the 2024 season for NCAA Division One indoor track and field. We will continue to include the other divisions as well as the junior college ranks, and my hope is to eventually be able to cover all of college, but in time that will happen. We had our first major weekend this past weekend where we saw quite a few big name talents jump in and get things started. First let's break out the new format that we have. It's going to be a four-leg format, sort of like a relay. We'll have our first leg, our second leg, our third leg, and our anchor, and it'll vary depending on what we have for the recording, whether it be a recap show, maybe even a live recorded stream. So keep an eye out for that. Or we're talking about someone in specific. In this recap show, we're going to focus on our first leg, which will be the sprints. Second leg will be distance. Third leg will be field events. And the anchor leg for this specific week's recap will be my thoughts overall of the weekend. And in future, we may include relay discussions, coaching changes, things like that. Something major that needs to happen to bring things home. Expect for more activity to happen here on the YouTube channel and less activity on the blog. However, the blog still will be going up, and there will be a link to this YouTube video on the blog. Just a reminder, the blog itself, it's www.tracknerd2.blogspot.com. There will be a link within this chat function or attached to the YouTube channel in general, but please make sure you check it out. Also, let's get started. And we're looking at what we had was a first strong weekend. We saw in the women's sprints where we'll get started some big names that we had mentioned in our preview really sort of step up. And the first name I want to bring up is Kayla Jackson from the University of Georgia, who, no surprise, took the number one time in the nation in the 60-meter dash, running a 7:19 to start the season. Similar to that of a Julian Alfred, not quite there yet, but let's give her credit. 7:19 is a very strong debut, and it's going to catch attention from anyone. I think this will be a pretty solid year in this event with Kayla Jackson sort of being the leader. But the other name that I want to mention because but is the defending SEC champion is Jason Sears of Tennessee. And if her name is Jakias or it's pronounced differently, someone let me know. But from what I see, it's Jasis. And what I've been watching, Miss Sears has just been fantastic. And she debuted her season sub 23, 22:88 in the 200-meter dash. Just a really outstanding time. Makes me curious as to what can she run right now in the 60. Does she have a 7-1 in her? With the 22:88, I'm pretty sure she can run 7-1. We might even see her run sub 7-1. So keep an eye out for her next week. And then, of course, welcome back, not officially, but welcome back to the sub 8-second performance, Grace Stark of Florida. I had hoped and had predicted in my preview that she'll get back to the way things were in 2022, because we know that at the sort of the end of 2022 during the outdoor season, she had that injury and things, she healed and things began to slowly form in 2023, but not to the level she was indoors 2022 when she ran that 7.78. So to debut her season sub 8 and to be the only sub 8 performer so far this indoors, that's a solid start. 7.97 for Grace Stark, and just expect for her to continue to ride this wave. On the men's side, we look at Texas Tech, which again has really just emerged as a preeminent, strong sprint power to go along the likes of Florida, LSU, USC, Tennessee. I mean, just incredible depth in this event specifically. But Dondre Swint, not Terrence Jones. That should tell you that how much depth. They may have the top two guys. Dondre Swint of Texas Tech, formerly of Florida State, 6'5" to debut in the weekend. What a start. Just, this is someone who has got great lower body strength. I mean, those legs are powerful. And it was proven here this past weekend with a 6'5" to start the season. I mean, could we next week see someone run sub 6'5"? Could we see a 6'4" in January? I mean, it's possible, but that's a strong start. Then we have in the 200, two big names that I want us to pay attention to. There is Robert Gregory of Florida and Tapawanashi Makararu, I'm gonna mess that name up, of New Mexico Junior College, both running spectacular times. Gregory, we know, is the defending outdoor champion. Um, SEC 20.47 to start his season indoors. Man, that's a rocket start. That caught the attention of a lot and will definitely secure Florida's team title hopes as one of their linchpin and one of their main scorers. But you cannot ignore what Makarawu of New Mexico Junior College did. He ran a 20.29. Granted, at altitude, doesn't matter. That's an outstanding time. For him to run that this early, this 23-year-old in junior college, I think is ready to really introduce himself to the majors of the world to let them know I'm another talented African sprinter that you need to keep an eye on. No major performances in the 400 on either men's or women's side, and that's to be expected because normally what we've seen over recent years is the top 400-meter runners tend to wait until the end of January, early February before they even begin to start running. And there's even the potential that we may see some good performances this weekend, but we'll wait and see. But until we see sort of an explosive time, this recap, we're going to just focus on the big time performances. Now, when we transition onto our second leg distance on the women's side, we have a familiar name, Juliet Whitaker of Stanford. Um, Strong 800-meter runner, strong 1500-meter runner, and she has debuted beautifully. 2:02.67 for Stanford to start her season with a W. And with a 2:02 this early, I mean, is it possible that she may run two flat or even 159 indoors? Remains to be seen. But Whitaker is a name that we expect to continually say here, and we expect to see someone perform with her caliber of talent to perform at a high level. So it wouldn't be a shock if she's one of the ones crossing the finish line with a trophy later on in this season. So no surprise, especially with a time like that. Carly Thomas of Washington is a name we need to get familiar with. 4:30.38 in the mile, and she's been primarily an 800 runner. So to see that time, if I am a coach at Washington, I'm gonna push Carly Thomas more miles, please. 4:30.38 this early. I think in her legs, there's a sub 40:30 time in the mile. Yes, I know indoors January, but let's not ignore the incredible development that's been going on at Washington and their depth in their men's side. It should not be long before we see that same type of performance on the women's side. And I think that Carly Thomas is indication of the quality of coaching that takes place at Washington. On the men's side, let's focus on the 800 here as well. We have Cole Lindhurst of Texas, and Texas is really becoming a strong middle distance power. They've been so in the past, but for them to have this much depth in their middle distance events, it's been a minute, and they're very strong. And Cole Lindhorst took over the rankings this past weekend with a 147.39 performance. This early in the season, could we see 146, 145 by the time the indoor season ends? Remains to be seen, but let's keep an eye on him. He wasn't a guy that I had mentioned in the preview, but he's a guy that we probably need to start getting familiar with. Then you have Aiden Troutner of BYU. Speaking of people you need to get familiar with, we need to get familiar with him quick. 3:59.2 on a flat track, a sub 4 minute mile on a flat track, with all the stories and chat sessions that you hear people talk about in regards to shoes and track levels and track performances. A good old fashioned basic flat track. Aiden Troutner of BYU went on it and ran a sub 4 minute mile. And it converts to a 3:54.51 seasonal debut. How about that? Let's get to know him before we start crowning anyone from Washington, because that's going to catch somebody's attention. And then we go on to our third leg, which will be our field events. And there were quite a few quality field event performances this past weekend. And I mentioned in the preview a great little piece about Nebraska, and they're the school that focuses on the technical side of track and field. Whether it be a track event, their hurdlers run well. If they're a sprinter, they're going to run the sprints technically sound. If they're a jumper or a thrower, they're going to be technically sound. And here they are, the top performer of the weekend in the high jump, Jenna Rogers, 6 feet 2 3/4 inch or 1.9 meters. That's a big time jump this early. And I know that Charity Huffnagel is the woman that we're looking at to kind of be the leader in this specific event. But Jenna Rogers kind of burst onto the scene with that type of performance, and I don't expect for that to be her final time at that height. I wouldn't be shocked, especially with the coaching that she's getting at Nebraska, for her to go beyond that. That's going to put her in sort of the top three of NCAA. She's going to be there, I think, in the end. What a great start to her indoor season. And transitioning from, the high jump to the long jump, Claire Bryant of Florida, who we predicted was one of our two big names in this event, and she's living up to the hype already, jumping at 21 feet 8 1/4 inches or 6.61 meters in the long jump. Already a strong start to her season as well. Uh, in order for her to be able to compete in the long jump with Achilles Smith of Texas, she's got to get to the point where she's able to do 23 feet outdoors, but she's got to be a solid 22-foot jumper indoors, and she's near there. 21.8 already. We know that she'll be jumping continuously throughout the season, although Florida is very smart with how they develop their athletes and how often they compete. Probably won't see her for a couple weeks, but towards the end of the month of January, we'll probably see her again. And she may even surprise us then, because let's also not forget, she also jumped 6 feet in the high jump, too. So she's going to be counted on for Florida for big points, and she's living up to the hype. In the triple jump, Petros Kiprianou, who was once the Georgia coach, known for his ability to coach field events. I mean, that there's not a debate there. He is an outstanding field events coach, and I would think, especially when it comes to jumping events, all those great talented jumpers he had at Georgia, and now he's the coach at Illinois. And what do you know? Darja Sapova is his next sort of big prodigy. 44.6 or 13.56 meters in the triple jump, the new leader in the house. And now that, Jasmine Morris gone, we're waiting to see who's going to take over. And I think she's going to put her name in the cap, even though she wasn't mentioned as, a potential favorite going in. But here we are early in the season, and no surprise there. An Illinois jumper is within the top of a jumping event. Then we switch gears to throws, and we see that, what do you know? An Ole Miss thrower needs to be mentioned. And I had mentioned in the preview that this is the first time I will not have to mention an Ole Miss person as a potential competitor for a championship. Well, let me walk all that back. Because Jasmine Mitchell said, well, let me check you and make sure you remember that I'm still here. 79 feet, 3 1/4 inches, or 24.16 meters in the weight throw. Literally almost an 80-foot jump on the very first throw of the season. I think that Jasmine Mitchell was really ready to remind not only me, but the rest of us, I'm still here and I'm still that girl. For her to throw a mark like that, yes, what an outstanding performance by Miss Mitchell. And Ole Miss clearly knows what they're doing in throws, because the top performer on the men's side in throws in not one, but two events was an Ole Miss thrower, Tariq Robinson O'Hagan. What an outstanding weekend. Number one in the shot put, number one in the weight throw. I don't think I've seen that ever in a weekend. Whether it's this early in the season, late in the season, it's been a while since we've seen anyone be that competitive in both. But 64 feet, 3 inches, or 19.58 meters in the shot put and in the weight throw, 75 feet, 10 inches, 10 1/4 inches in the weight throw, 23.12 meters. I mean, I expected to see his name called in the weight throw, but did not see it in the shot put. But to be already at 64 feet this early, and I expect for us to really get some good solid throw numbers. We have some very serious throwers that'll be competing later on in the season that are going to give us some great marks. But this is a really solid, strong start to the season. So that's just a small legs 1 through 3 breakdown of what we saw this past weekend. I think this coming weekend we're going to see a lot more performers. We may see a shock. I mean, this has been our theme the past couple of years of watching old, very old NCAA records just fall. They've just been falling, and I think that'll continue this year. In the final leg, just my weekend thoughts overall. This was a great start, as I said, for the month of January, because we know the indoor season starts really in December, but January is when things start to really get going. There were quite a few standout performances and a few surprises. Again, I did not expect for O'Hagan to be not only be number one in the weight throw, but in the shot put in one weekend. I don't. It's just been a while since we've seen that, and I didn't expect for Grace Stark to already be under 8 seconds to start her season. That has got to be a major confident booster for her as well. And another big note: Arkansas women will have another banner year in the 400. I, at this point, because for a while it's been Texas, Florida, South Carolina, USC. Those have been the big names in the 400 and in the 4x4 relay. And Arkansas has been there consistently. But the past couple of years, it's almost as if they've stamped and closed the door shut that we are the top program. Because the amount of depth that they have is literally insane. The fact that they have a 4x4 that can run a 328 and a B squad that can run a 330. Are you kidding me? Either one of those performances are good this early. They're already under 330, and it's the early portion of January. They have literally 2 more months before the end of the season, and we're talking about a team that indoors pushed that might run 323, 324. I mean, are we looking at the potential first team this outdoor season to go sub 320? Are we really there in the collegiate ranks? I mean, what they've done in this event, the 400 and the 4x4 relay in the past couple of years has just simply been remarkable, especially since they've lost Britton Wilson to the pros and others to the pros. But the depth that they have. And a bigger shock was Shanti Jackson, who's going to primarily be a short sprinter, was also proven that she can fit right in the 400. As she was a versatile sprinter, but her 100 time 10.89, that's going to stand forever probably as the high school record. She ran 52-1 comfortably as her debut. You mean to tell me that she probably could run 50-point indoors and she's not going to be a primary 400 runner? Imagine what she's going to run on a relay leg. I mean, and if she's pushed, this program is really, really deep in this event, and they're going to be hard to defeat this year. I think Florida will have a solid team. I think Texas will have a solid team. LSU, South Carolina. I mean, Southern Cal, we expect it with under Quincy Watts, but I don't know if anyone has the capability of defeating Arkansas. That I just don't see as of yet. But this is a very talented group, and this is going to be an explosive year. So I'm going to end this video stating thank you for listening. I hope to see you around again. More videos to come, and hopefully a live stream sometime soon, where we can literally discuss what really just happened, and we're talking just off the cuff. So I look forward to speaking with you all again soon. If any comments, feedback, please share, whether positive or negative. I want this channel to grow, and I really would like for you to be a part of it as a listener. Thank you all.